Boundless members, my name is Hayley and welcome back to the second part in our little mini gardening series. So thank you so much for all of your comments and all of your questions that came through last month. I've got quite a few to go through, but I'm going to add them into the things that we're going to be doing throughout the day. So to start with, we are going to be sowing some tomatoes and we are also going to be planting our onions or shallots. So you can obviously grow onions from seed, however most people find it easiest to start them from sets, and this is what they look like, little mini ones. So I'm going to talk to you about those in a minute, but first I'm going to start prepping my tomatoes. So this year I'm growing 17 varieties of tomatoes. I know, it's a lot. But what I'm also going to be doing is growing some for people like my neighbours, my family, so I end up providing everyone with tomato plants for their garden because you can grow them anywhere. You can grow them on your patio, you can grow them in pots. So first of all, what I'm doing is I'm just soaking these coir pots. Now this is what I'm going to grow my tomatoes in to start off. So while these expand, I shall just talk about them. So these are little coir seedling pots, and they have a biodegradable membrane on the outside of them. So just be careful that you do get the ones that are biodegradable, because I have had some in the past that you end up having to rip open because the roots are just not growing through and this isn't breaking down. But yeah, this is how we're going to start off our tomato seedlings. So while I wait for that to soak up, I shall start with my onion sets. So these are my shallots, and these are going to be a big feature in my wedding this year. Now you can plant these directly outside. You can plant them in the autumn, or you can do it now, or even a little bit later in the spring. Now you can put them straight in the ground, exactly the same way as what I'm going to do here. The only difference being is that this gives them a lovely head start. And the other thing that I found as a problem is that when you plant them outside, the birds come along and they see a little green shoot and they pull it up. So you tend to end up putting them back into the soil more times, disturbing those roots. So I prefer to do it this way, and I just find it easier, to be honest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my shallot and I'm literally just going to pop it into the compost. I've just made a little hole in each. Oh, get rid of that, that's a bit of a stone. And then I'm going to sink it in. So you want to make sure that you have the root end going in. So as you can see, that's where the shoots will come from, and these are the roots here. So you just want them deep enough so they're about half covered. They've still got a lot of them sticking out the top. And there you go, and just push them into the soil. Now this soil is just standard multi-purpose compost. You don't need seed sowing soil for this because they're not seeds, and actually it's the bulb that holds all the energy for them to get going, so they're not relying so much on the compost. This is just a lovely way for them to grow their roots. And there you have it. So they are your shallots in there. You just need to give them a little water, and within about a week or so you should start noticing some shoots appearing. You don't need to keep them really moist, just to get them going. So I'm just going to add a little bit more water to these. These have swollen up nicely. So as you can see, they start off like that and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So for your tomatoes, you are going to want to grow these indoors. It's too cold outside and an unheated greenhouse isn't going to give you enough heat for them. They do like a lot of warmth, so these and your chilies and aubergines will all be staying indoors definitely until the last frost has gone. So I've got all different types of seeds here. As I said, I'm growing a lot of different varieties. So some varieties we have Sweet Success, Tomato Berry, we've got Alicia Craig, we've got Sweet Mardy, we have Chocolate Cherry, we have Yellow Mini, we've got absolutely loads here. So my best advice would be to go for a mixture. So if you love cherry tomatoes, don't bother growing the beef tomatoes. If you love beef tomatoes, don't bother growing the cherry tomatoes. I like to do a mix of both because I find that some I keep and I freeze, and they come in really handy for soups and dishes in the winter, and then my cherry tomatoes, I just love eating them fresh, straight off the vine. There is nothing better than that, especially in the summer when they've been ripened and lovely and warm. So we're just going to grab our seeds. And again, these are really small seeds. And they're absolutely tiny here. So I'm just going to pop one in each of these coir pots. And then I'm just going to move the coir around to just cover it up slightly. Doesn't need to be deep planting. There you go. And that's it. So I'm just going to carry on doing all of the tomato varieties that I've got, and the best thing you need to do is label them. So get your lollipop sticks and get to marking, because you do not want to lose what variety is what. And the reason why you don't want to lose what variety is what is because you prune these differently. So depending on whether they're a cordon variety or a bush variety means that you prune them differently. So make sure you know what you are sowing and planting out. Now this you can put in your heated propagator, or you can literally put it on your windowsill at home. They want as much light as possible. So one of the questions that someone sent in was about leggy seedlings. Leggy seedlings is so common, and especially if you're a new gardener, you don't know exactly what conditions those seeds need. But I can tell you, leggy seedlings is all to do with light and heat. Surprisingly, it's to do with heat as well. So you want to put your seedlings somewhere in the brightest room that you have. I've got a double aspect living room, which is perfect. So I've got sunshine all day long when it is sunny outside. You also shouldn't be sowing things too early, because you need as much light as possible. And as the days get longer, even that 15-20 minutes can make a big difference. So again, make sure that you're sowing your crops at the right time. Another thing that you can look at is heat. Now, because we normally have our seedlings indoors at this time of the year, we've got the heating turned up, especially at the moment. We're all home at the moment and we've got the heating cranked up, and it is just too warm for a lot of seedlings. So as I said, things like the tomatoes, chilies and peppers are going to be absolutely great with your central heating. However, things like these onions and your leeks that we did last month, they are not going to like the heat. Again, with those sweet peas, the boiled beans, it is too warm for all of them. So what you're doing basically is you're mimicking the fact that it's summer with the temperatures that you've got indoors, but the plants don't have the light levels of summer to then grow those really strong roots and those really strong stems. So what they do is they reach for the light, they think, oh, it's really warm, it's summer, I better get growing, but actually there's not enough light there. So that is why you get leggy plants. Now, another little tip I'm going to show you in a moment is how to make a reflector. Now this is great if you've got a darker room or that windowsill. You could just do with maximising that light a little bit. So what you're going to need is, you're going to need a Stanley knife or a pair of scissors. You're going to need some cardboard, some tin foil and some double-sided tape, and I'm going to show you how to do this now. So you can make your reflector whatever size you want, whether you want to go to a certain size seed tray or whether you want to do it the size of your windowsill. So I have a lovely big bit of cardboard. So this is going to be my back, and then these are going to be my sides. I don't need the sides to be that long because they just need to go into the windowsill. So I'm going to cut these down first with my Stanley knife. It is easier, but if you need to, you can use your scissors. This now makes a frame. So this is a bit tall. You want it about 30 centimetres tall. It all depends on how tall your pots are, because obviously you want it to come above the pots. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut up the two corners, about 10 centimetres. None of this has to be accurate, just whatever you need it to be. And then I'm going to score to these points. So just want to do it really lightly, and that means that you can bend it in like that. This is going to help our reflector stand up. So this we can tuck like that, and then your seed tray can sit on top of there. So we can double side tape this together. Before I do that, I am going to put a cut from here to here. So that's from your scored edge up into the corner. It's just going to be a nice diagonal cut. and it's going to let any light through from the side that may be in the room. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is, before I fold this into position, I am going to cover it in tin foil. This is just standard kitchen tin foil, and you want the shiny surface outwards so that it reflects as much light as possible. So first of all, I'm just going to get some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to pop this along the edges. Like that. And then I'm just going to peel this back here. And we're going to overlap this so it goes past your cardboard. Like that. And then as you go along, take the tape off. If you take all the tape off at once, I guarantee you, you'll get something stuck in the wrong place, and then you won't be able to get it back up. Rip that off. Then I'm going to tuck this in behind the back there. Okay, and now I'm just going to put another piece along the top here. We just need to get some more double-sided tape or glue and pop a section on there. And fill it off and pop your board up to it. Now we're going to do the same on this side, just going to make sure that's in first. And there you go. So there you go, one DIY reflector that took less than 5 minutes to make, and it is going to give plenty of light for your seedlings and stop them going leggy. Another question that we received last month was concerning your leeks and whether you needed to plant these deep. Now at this stage they don't really need a deep pot, however when we pot these on they are going to need a deep pot. So I choose about a 6-inch pot like that. And I plant these into there, and then when they go out into their final position I plant them into the ground. You can also do these in pots throughout the year, so you don't have to plant them into the ground at the end. So these are slightly different to your onions, because your onions you always plant shallow and leeks you always plant deep. So I have grabbed my secateurs, make sure they're really sharp, and now I'm going to go through how to prune things like red currants, black currants. This is actually a black currant, and this is sort of the latest time in the year that you want to be doing this. Any later and your plants are going to be in full swing, so these are already starting to bud. And what we're trying to achieve here is we're going to try and get rid of the old dead wood. We are going to get rid of anything that's diseased. We're going to create a lovely globe shape and open it all out. And then also we want to get rid of any branches that are crossing over each other, because what they're going to do is they're going to rub over the season and they are going to create points where diseases can get in. So I shall go over this plant with you. This is quite an old plant. This has been here for quite a number of years now, and it has produced so many blackcurrants over the years. I've got 4 of them actually, and there's never too much blackcurrant jam in my house. So I'm going to grab the camera and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to be cutting out and how to do that. First of all, I am going to show you some really healthy growth. So these are some new shoots. You can see that they're lighter in colour compared to these dark ones. So the dark ones are the old ones, the lighter shoots are this season's. And your fruit will grow on both, but it will grow more on the new shoots than the old shoots. So you want to have a balance really. You want to be getting rid of around 8 to 10 stems. So this is quite a healthy plant. Over here though we have the opposite. So we have got lots of green stems here. They don't look healthy, and actually this plant lost a lot of its stems last year. So I'm going to cut this out because I think this has got some disease in it. You can see this one in the centre here, that is a new shoot, and these are all old, so this is going to get a really good prune. So this one here doesn't actually have any buds on it whatsoever. So I'm just going to go down to here. You can see there's a bud just there, and I'm going to go above the bud, and I'm going to cut at a 45-degree angle there. So just like that, and remove that stem there. So you want to cut it on this 45-degree angle here, so that when the rainwater falls on the stem, it's going to go off onto the ground. It's not going to pull on that stem, and otherwise if you leave it to be flat, then this will end up rotting, and it could cause some rotting at the base of your plant. Okay, so here is my biggest bush that I had at the beginning, and as you can see here, we have a crossover of branches. Now all of our branches need to be vertical. You want them to create that lovely globe shape, and you don't really want these horizontal stems. So when you're choosing between which one to cut off, because these are going to rub over the summer, I would always go for the horizontal one, or the one that looks the least healthiest. So again, I'm just going to cut this off in the middle here, quite close to the base, and as you can see there's another shoot just above that, just below that, sorry. So that's why I'm going to cut just above, and then that leaves this shoot here. So I'll get rid of that one, and now I'm just going to carry on and prune out probably at least 10 to 12 stems on this plant, just because it is so big. Again, if you've got any snapped stems, you want to cut them out as well. Now next up, I'm going to be showing you how to prune your raspberry canes. So you've got two different types of raspberries. You've got a summer fruiting raspberry, and you've got an autumn fruiting. Autumn fruiting, exactly how it sounds, it fruits in the autumn, and the summer is a lot earlier in the summertime. And the difference between the two is that, say you've got this stem here, so this could have been a new stem last year. So if this was a summer fruiting one, then this wouldn't have had any fruit on it whatsoever. These fruit on the second year canes. So you've got to leave this until it's the second year, and then when it has fruited, you can then cut it off. With autumn fruiting, you cut the whole lot down in autumn, so these fruit on that year's cane. So I am going to cut all of these down, and then I'm going to give it a really good mulch. Now the thing that you need to think about if you're planting some canes this spring is to make sure that you don't put these anywhere near each other. So if you want to grow both the summer and the autumn fruiting, they need to be far away from each other, because these do sucker and they pop up absolutely everywhere. I've got a bed over the other side there that I have planted all of the raspberries in, and in a couple of years time they just grew everywhere else apart from that one bed. So it's quite frustrating, but you don't want to get confused between the two. If you're not sure what you've got, if you've inherited some, the best thing to do is to leave the crop completely, and then see whether you get any fruits on that cane that you've left, and then that will tell you whether that's summer fruiting or autumn fruiting. If you leave the cane and they don't fruit, then that means they're more likely to be summer fruiting, and then if you leave it a second year, you can then definitely tell, because that cane should fruit. So yeah, it's really simple. You just need to cut them down by the base. I leave a couple of centimetres at the bottom, just so then I know where the plants are. And this is a great job to do now. Again, you don't really want to leave it any later, because these are going to start budding soon. The last thing I want to talk about today is container gardening. So although I've got a big allotment here, I still do a lot of container gardening, and there's so many benefits to it, but also it's suitable if you've got a small garden, or maybe even if you don't own the garden and you want to get some crops in there, or some plants and some pretty flowers in the summertime, you can put them into pots. So behind me here I've got my herb garden. So this has just been made out of pallets, and the reason why I've done this mainly is because mint suckers everywhere. So I've got a mint in the top there, and if you ever put that into the ground, it will go absolutely everywhere. So again, the great reason for that pot is it's going to stop its roots from growing anywhere, and I can control exactly where I want it to grow. Likewise, if something's not really enjoying where I've put it, I can then move the pot and put it on a different side of the garden, and it'll get a different aspect of sun, different wind, and it'll probably enjoy it more. So it does give you the flexibility to make those mistakes and then change them afterwards. The other reason that I contain a garden is mainly for slugs actually. So you can really control whether you've got any slugs in that container or not, whereas if you've got it in the open ground and you've got your lettuces in there, you've got your summer leafy greens, the slugs can come along and devour them in one night, whereas if they're in a pot you can pop them on the table and the slugs are really going to find it tricky to get up there. You can also buy something, I haven't done this, but it's called a copper tape, and you can wrap that around the top of the pots, and this is meant to act as a barrier that the slugs won't like to climb over and to get to your crops. So for container gardening on an ornamental basis, this is a great time of year to have a show of pots with all different bulbs planted in. Now ideally you should have planted these bulbs in the autumn, but if you do have some lying around, I'd always say put them in, because you know those bulbs aren't going to do anything, whereas at least if you put them in some soil they have one chance. So yeah, that is a really nice way to make a lovely show in your garden. And you can do the lasagna planting method, which is where you have your different layers of bulbs of say tulips, you can have daffodils, you can have alliums in there, and they're all going to flower at different times and give you a lovely show all the way through from spring till summer. Now you may be asking, what can you plant in containers? And I would always say try. I don't think there's ever a rule. I always believe that when you plant something in a container, it will grow to that size of the container, and sometimes that's really beneficial. When I first started growing, I had butternut squashes in pots everywhere in my parents' garden, and I didn't actually know at the time that butternut squashes really love a lot of water, they like a lot of nutrients, which obviously when you plant them into compost in a pot, they've only got a limited supply of that. But actually they did really well. I got about 25 butternut squashes, and they were actually all on the smaller size, which was perfect because I didn't have these huge squashes that I had to store, and then once opened I had to eat them within a certain amount of time before they went off. So they were really good for sort of like a family of 4 dinner. Again, with things like dahlias, they're always going to grow to the size of your pot. I've got a lot of dahlias in pots. As I said, for my wedding they're going to be one of my main flowers, and the thing of having them in the pots means that they're not going to get any slug damage, and I'm hopefully going to be showing you how to plant up some of your dahlias next month. So if you've got any tubers, keep them in a cool dark place, and we shall be planting them up together next month. Thank you so much for watching everyone. If you do have any questions, please do head over onto the Boundless Facebook page and comment away on everything you want to know and any questions about anything that I've said today. And I shall be with you next month talking lots more about what you can be doing, and it's very exciting because we are getting closer to spring.